episode of the Metal Roundtable. I am Metal Rob, and this is
Carcass John.
And we love you. We're off to a terrible start. I've already screwed
And I
this
asked
up.
if you were going to make it through this episode, and
I'm
I don't
not.
know if I'm
not.
sure that you are.
I'm still sick. I'm sick of being sick.
Ugh.
So we left you last time with hologram tours, and we talked about a couple of concerts. Speaking of concerts, around the same time we did the last episode, I had just seen Alice in Chains, and since then I have seen Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, yeah, with the Mighty Mothership as
Yes.
direct support.
Setting cities on flame with rock and roll.
Of course, as
they
always.
They were fantastic. Loved them. I've seen them 3 times in the last 4 or 5 years, having never seen them before that. And they put on a blistering set at the Gas Monkey. It was great. Those dudes playing guitar, I could just watch those guys play and sing those songs forever. They did a great job. But anyway, I won't belabor that point.
Well, belabor the point. Blue Oyster Cult's awesome. I remember seeing them in college at the Salt Palace in Salt Lake City, Utah. That would have been the early 80s, and I still remember the blade cutting the hand thing and all that really craziness. But they were, after seeing them at Psycho Vegas a couple years ago, they're still just awesome. They're just awesome. They're a good band.
I missed them. I never knew that much about them back in the day. I was always fascinated by their album covers. But to me, and this is no slight on the band, this is just my inexperience with Blue Oyster Cult growing up. I'm a greatest hits guy. You know, I know all the songs that everybody knows, but what I didn't realize was when you get that greatest hits CD and it's got 15 songs on it, I didn't realize how many songs I knew, but didn't realize they were Blue Oyster Cult songs. So it was great. The tour was great. The Dallas stop was great. They played everything you wanted to hear, just like I said about Alice in Chains last time. And a couple of surprises. What was the song about? Harvester of Eyes. They played Harvester of Eyes.
They played that?
Yeah. And I thought Daniel Akers was going to lose his mind.
Mm.
So that was cool. But anyway, check out Blue Oyster Cult. Those dudes are still going strong. A lot of fun to see live. So if you get a chance, definitely check those out.
Yep.
Now, what we don't have from Blue Oyster Cult, as far as I know,
is a book.
So we're going to talk about today some of our favorite books. And I'm going to get the carcass started with Dave Mustaine's book.
And I could go on and on and on. And everybody knows this. Well, if you don't know the story about Metallica, this is kind of where it started, honestly. In my opinion, here we go with my opinion again, and if you disagree, you can chime in downstairs. But when Mustaine got booted, and the irony is he got booted because he was an angry drunk. Weren't they all angry drunks?
I don't know if they were angry.
Well, but they were all drunks. Anyway, when he got booted, I thought that they lost their best songwriter, and then when Cliff Burton died, they lost their soul, and that's why they sort of have been spiraling downward, in my opinion. Because after the first 3 records, I think that they were missing something. But anyway, that being said, this is a really honest, comprehensive book. It's not preachy, but you sort of understand why Dave is angry Dave. And it doesn't justify, I don't think that anything justifies bad behavior. But you sort of have a better understanding as to why he drank too much, why he indulged in drugs, and his fire to try and kick Metallica's ass.
Mm-hmm.
As Megadeth, and the fact that they've sold, he sold 60 million records. Fact check, 60 million records, 55 million records, and Metallica sold almost double that. Really chaps his backside. He really, but to his credit, his last few records I think have been really exceptional.
I agree.
And better than the Metallica. Sorry, Metallica fans, but that's just my opinion. And I love Metallica, and I think that they garner a lot of goodwill with their first 3 records. But this book is an interesting read. Even if you're not a fan of Dave Mustaine or Megadeth, this will be an interesting book to you. And it's got a lot of creepy facts, and I think what happens is you start to put yourself in his place as a young, deranged teenager just looking for an identity.
I have not read that one yet, but I will get to it.
This is pretty awesome.
Definitely will get to it. So carry on, brother.
Oh,
Megadeth has sold 38 million albums.
38 million albums
That's-
sold by Megadeth.
That's fact check Lance.
Fact check Lance. The GOAT comes through in the clutch again. And I bet that Kiss has sold more than 38 million records. And we'll hear that fact coming up soon. But yeah, Kiss and Makeup, another great comprehensive book. And I know a lot of people don't like Gene's ego and they don't like his weird, crappy attitude. But I think that the fact that most people can't handle the truth, as Jack Nicholson said in A Few Good Men, you don't want to hear the truth because you can't handle the truth. Well, unfortunately, Gene is all too truthful, and sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. Just my opinion. You can fight me in the parking lot or fight me in the comment section. But an interesting book. Talks about his life, talks about him growing up. And the thing about Kiss is they basically had nothing. They came from nothing, and they made something of themselves. And I think that's why they appreciate the money side of it so much, is because they came from a dirt floor, basically. And
Well, they built it themselves. You can say what you want about their arrogance. You can say what you want about their egos. You can say what you want about their attitudes toward, people or other bands, or however they handle their business, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, they did it.
They built it from the
They
ground
did
up.
it bigger than anybody else. You can talk about their musicianship, whatever you want. They suck, this, that, the other. I've heard it all. But it doesn't matter. They did it bigger than anybody from nothing. And they built it themselves. And they resurrected it when it was just about dead.
Yeah, it was pretty... Well, when they started wearing fluorescent spandex, then I thought that was dead.
Yeah.
Although in your book, you discovered them about that time. So
yes.
What can I say? Anyway, for you collectors, if you don't want to read the book, the interesting thing about it is, if you get the paperback version, there are 4 different volumes, and on the spine, which is this part of the book, it has a quarter of the graphic. And so when you sit on all 4 volumes on the shelf, you see the spine showing, and it's got this picture of Gene's face.
Cool.
So for you collectors out there,
Yeah.
and
That was not a mistake.
no, it wasn't a mistake. Yeah, you think Gene wanted you to buy 4 volumes of the same book of his? Of course
Yes. All right. I'm going to go and talk about this one. I picked this up. I don't even remember why I picked this up, and this is going to sound really silly, and I don't mean it to be. I knew Sammy Hagar's radio songs. I knew I Can't Drive 55. I knew Fall in Love Again. I knew, all that stuff that you heard on the
Heavy
radio.
metal.
Yeah, heavy metal. Growing up, I knew he was in Montrose, although I didn't know much of anything about Montrose. But I started reading this book. I don't remember what got me interested in it. But the thing is, Sammy Hagar was a millionaire before he needed to make money making music. I did not know this. He was successful. His family was successful in like the fire sprinkler business or something like that. If I remember, it's been a while since I read the book, but he was very successful in business before he did any of the Sammy Hagar or Van Halen stuff. But this book is awesome. It talks a little bit about him growing up and the family business. It talks a ton about his career, obviously, solo career. But the thing that I found fascinating was him going into Van Halen, the days during his time in Van Halen, and leaving Van Halen. That was fascinating. This is, man, it's going to be hard. I got a couple, 3 more books to go through here. Even though I am not the biggest, I'm not Sammy Hagar's #1 fan. I liked his music, and I liked him in Van Halen, and I liked all of that. But the book, even though I had only a light knowledge of his music, not a real deep knowledge of his music, the book is amazing, and it might be, with the exception of this one right here, that I'll come to in a minute, this might be, if it's not my first favorite book about a musician that I've ever read, it's my second favorite. I can't recommend this book enough. It's been out a few years now. You can probably pick it up cheap, but man, I can't recommend Sammy Hagar's book read enough. Grab it. It's an awesome read. So let's go to Official Truth, Rex Brown. What do you think?
Well, I actually won this at a raffle at the Ridgely Theater at a Warby show, I think. It might have been the Fort Worth Rockers against MS. That's probably what it was. And when I got it, I thought, okay, here we go, another Pantera book, because everybody's got a Pantera book. Everyone wants to know the truth of these guys. Well, honestly, this thing is pretty much spot on, because Rex, Rex is kind of the guy in the middle. You know, there was the Abbott brothers side of things, and then there was the Phil Anselmo side of things, but nobody talks about Rex. So Rex was kind of the glue that was keeping the band kind of at least in the same room, because there was a lot of animosity, a lot of hard feelings, a lot of creative differences. I mean, if you think about it, when Phil joined the band, Pantera was on its way to be the next Dokken, basically. And when Phil joined, they became something heavier, and they basically I think Pantera, and here's my opinion again, I think they kind of salvaged what was left of the heavy metal scene and made it relevant again.
Absolutely, there's no question they kept metal relevant during the 90s.
And that book points out some of this internal battle in the band. And I don't think that it doesn't pick favorites. He points fingers at Phil. He points fingers at Daryl. He points fingers at Vinny. He points fingers at himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is enough accolades, but enough blame to be spread. And I think the book is very truthful. I was astonished that it was that honest, and I liked it.
Extremely honest, brutally honest, uncomfortably honest in places. I love the book. It was a serious page turner for me. Official Truth by Rex Brown. Please check it out. Very worth the read, especially if you're a Pantera fan.
Yep.
Now, you and I have both read this guy.
Absolutely. And you can argue that what Black Sabbath's role is in the world of heavy metal. I think they are the grandfathers of heavy metal, just like Napalm Death are the grandfathers of grind. But this guy right here produced the riffs that started the whole scene.
Right.
And once again, the book is very honest. It talks about I mean, they came from squalor too, basically. I mean, when they were growing up as young boys, there was their life was heading towards nowhere fast until they discovered the music.
Well, this book to me, I had a lot of questions about Black Sabbath that were answered by this book, because I knew those first few albums that Ozzy sang on. Up until when it started getting toward Never Say Die, I kind of lost, I knew some history up to that point, and then it went for a long time. Well, no, Dio came in right after that, but there was a lot of gray area for me. I never knew about the Never Say Die era. I wanted to know more about that. It's in here. I wanted to know more about the Tony Martin era. It's in here.
Yep.
I wanted to know more about the Ray Gillen era. It's in here. I mean, Tony talks about in this book every single chapter of the band, and he doesn't belabor the point on just the huge Ozzy stuff. No, man, he talks about Dio and gives it its due. But the thing that I like the best is there's a chapter on every stinking thing that you want to know about. From getting the tips of his fingers cut off, to the Tony Martin albums, to just all these different things that guy's been through in music and in his life. And if you want to read the book of the true godfather of heavy metal, Iron Man, this is it, man. It's awesome.
And as a study guide to this book, you may want to pick up a book called Rat Salad. It does something similar, but it includes the opinions and the memories of all the band, and it basically segues into this book where you have this pile of information in Rat Salad, and then Tony cleans it all up, and he's the one constant in Black Sabbath. He is Black Sabbath,
right?
In my opinion, he was there from the start, and he was there at the end, and he's still there now.
Right.
Great book.
This book and the Sammy Hagar book are my two very favorite biographies or autobiographies by musicians. of all time, and I've read a ton of them. I've read Peter's book, I've read Ace's book, I've read Vince Neil's book. I read Motley Crue's The Dirt, which is a second. I mean, these are better than The Dirt by just a hair, but holy cow, this book and Sammy Hagar. Now, I've saved this one for last. Are you familiar with this?
Nope.
All right, this book, I don't remember what turned me on to this, but when I was a recording engineer years ago, I got turned on to this book called The Daily Adventures of Mixer Man. And I don't know who Mixer Man is. This is a book about some guy that was working or is working, I don't know, out in California, and he was a recording engineer. And he doesn't give you names of really who he's talking about. He kind of alludes to things. He alludes to who he is. He alludes to the people that he's worked with. But the stories are amazing. From live sound faux pas to recording faux pas, and how these bands would show up just completely unprepared for anything. And he just absolutely roasts these bands into submission. But the only key ingredient that you don't have is who he's talking about. And that sounds very vague. It's not as vague as I make it sound.
I think you could figure it out, though, can't you?
You can kind of figure it out. I'm pretty sure I've got it nailed on who the main band is that he's talking about dealing with. But this thing is absolutely hilarious. I absolutely hope that it's true, because if it's not, it got me hook, line, and sinker. This book's a few years old now, but holy cow, get The Daily Adventures of Mixer Man, and you will read this thing cover to cover, and you will laugh your freaking head off about the ins and outs of the music business, and specifically it dives into recording and just the disasters that this guy had to pull together. So lots of fun.
Well, and this was a little impromptu, so you can tell us about your favorite books down there. I mean, White Line Fever, The Lemmy Story is a good one. I'm into the psychedelic prog era of the 70s. There's a great book about Tangerine Dream. And so I think I actually feel smarter when I read. I know a lot of people don't like to read because it's laborious and you're kind of stuck in one spot. But what I like to do is put on a record and then read. Or when I'm on the airplane, I like to read. Mm-hmm. And I don't like there's something about an electronic device staring back at me. I like to see pages. I like the tactile idea of touching something and reading something. And like I said, I feel smarter, and I think my art is better when I read. It's very strange. I don't know if that's psychological or whatever. We could do a whole new episode about that.
You're psycho for sure.
I'm psycho and logical.
There's no question about that.
But anyway, tell us what your favorite book is. There's a million of them out there. And I guess we should shout out to Half Price Books.
Absolutely. That's where I picked this up.
Because this week, yesterday and today was 20% off. Tomorrow and Thursday is 30% off, 40% off on Friday and Saturday, and 50% off your most expensive item on Sunday. So
that means that I've got to get this posted pretty quick, because the sale will be over.
Oh, that's right.
I get this put up.
Sorry.
Well, those are our favorite. No, you're the man. You're still the man. So those are our favorite rock and roll and metal books. Tell us what you think. I'm glad that John worked in Tangerine Dream, because that's awesome. I don't think I could name a Tangerine Dream song, can I?
Probably not.
Okay.
But in lieu of that, we have some Tangerine Dream worship. In fact, check out some of the new art on the Carcass John art page, or the @Carcass John art on Instagram. I just did something for completely out of my realm. No skulls, no flaming swords, no pentagrams, no crosses. Burning.
What?
No, it's for Liquid Sound Company, our good friend
John
Perez at Born Late Records. He has this psychedelic project called Liquid Sound Company.
Yes.
Check it out. Check out the poster. Like I said, it's a complete departure from that. And there's a guy that could write books about things. We got to
get John on.
We got to get John on. But anyway,
get John on here.
Thanks for listening. List your favorite books. We look forward to seeing them. And
Until
Reading
next.
is fundamental.
reading is fundamental. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
The goat cracks us up.
It's a terrible thing to municipal waste too.
Oh boy, it's just getting worse. Okay, I'm pulling the plug on this. Until next time, metal will prevail.